At best, the bass is predictably unpredictable. But regardless of its unpredictable nature, one thing's for sure. The more bass fishing experience you have, the more knowledge you have of seasonal patterns and how they work, the more bass you're going to catch.
Pattern fishing for bass. That's what today's Bassmasters is all about. Specifically, the spring pattern, pre-spawn and spawn. Today, you'll be in a boat with two of the world's greatest bass fishermen. Ken Cook, the 1991 world champion, and two-time BASS winner Tom Mann Jr. This is a unique how-to approach because you're going to learn seasonal patterns by actually being in the boats with these anglers on a lake they've never seen before. You'll see firsthand how they go about establishing a pattern. You'll witness frustration when some things just don't go as they should, and you'll learn steps to finding bass. You'll see and hear how these pros make the decisions to a fish-catching pattern. As pointed out, neither Ken or Tom had ever seen this lake until they launched this morning. Last night, they were given a lake map and this information.
The time is late April. The lake is approximately 6 years old. It's regarded as a new lake because it's being impounded in 3 fill stages. Right now, it's in the second stage. Surface area is approximately 8,500 acres. About a month ago, the area experienced heavy rains. The lake muddied and rose several feet. But for the last 2 weeks, the water level has been falling. The water color is stained to muddy, but is now at stable elevation. The water temperature is in the high 50s to low 60s, depending on the time of day and area of the lake. The moon is 3/4 to full. Fishing has been reported as fair to poor. Yesterday, before Ken and Tom started their fishing, a fast-moving cold front with high winds and rain swept through the area. But today, the sky is clear, the wind light north, and the barometer high and rising. Tough conditions.
Keep in mind as you follow these pros, none of the fishing is staged or controlled, and they're fishing public water. Neither angler discussed with the other his game plan. But before we go fishing, look at these conditions again. What would you do? Plan your strategy. Then we'll be back to follow Ken and Tom's plan. I'm Bob Cobb. Stay tuned. The Bassmasters will be right back.
What we're going to do today is we're going to go out here and establish some springtime patterns. The fish should be moving back. When I say moving back, they should be moving in the creeks, moving in the secondary pockets off the creeks, shallow, in their spawning areas. We're going to try to stay with the pre-spawn fish today because he is more predictable and easier fish to catch.
We're going to be going to the lake, and hopefully we'll be able to fine-tune what we know already about the lake. We'll see what color it is, what the temperature is. I like to look at pH. It tells me, it allows me to eliminate a lot of water that fish won't be spawning in. So we'll look at those variables a little bit closer when we get on the water, and hopefully we'll be able to find some fish that are biting.
Where would you start fishing this morning? On the upper end of the lake in shallow water with the water temperature in the mid-60s? Or a large creek or tributary, fishing the shallow side of the creek or flat, searching for spawning bass? Or the clearest water available, such as the dam area in possible water temperatures below 60 degrees, where you might find pre-spawn bass? Tom Mann chose answer C. Start fishing in the lower end of the lake. Here's why.
This end of the lake is the water temperature is cooler. I've just turned my surface temp on. It's about 59 degrees. I want to try to deal with pre-spawn bass more than spawning bass. Spawning bass are a lot harder to catch. These pre-spawners are much more predictable. I see a lot of buckbrush in this little creek. It's not really a creek. It's like a little feeder creek, just a deep cove on the south end of the lake, or the dam end, the deeper end. The water color's better, temperature's better. I got the right type of wind. I'm going to start off with a spinnerbait. Spinnerbait is a great bait. This time of year, the water temperature's right for it. This bait will get your aggressive fish, your more aggressive fish, which pre-spawn bass are definitely the most aggressive fish you're going to catch any times of the year. So let's start right here with this spinnerbait and go down, fish some of this buckbrush and see how we do.
before I'll make a little survey around the lake to see what's really available on the rest of the lake. I just want to fish a little bit to find out what's going on. If I catch one, fine, I might figure something out, but this is just a get my bait wet sort of a stop right here. It's the first place I came to after I left the boat ramp. It looks like it needs a spinnerbait thrown in it.
I've already chosen the location down at the end of the lake I want to fish in, which is the dam end, the deeper end. When you start in a feeder creek or any kind of a creek and you're dealing with spawning bass, you're talking about shallow fish. You're talking about fish that are in 2, 3, 4, 5 feet of water. So when you come in a creek, if you can look on the other side where all the big standing timber is, that's the creek channel side. In other words, that's the deep side of the creek. When you're dealing with spawning bass, stay away from that side. Always fish the flat, shallow sides, because this is where your spawning bass are going to be. They're going to be shallow.
I need to take some other information about the water. I already know it's 59 degrees temperature-wise. I can see down in the water a couple of feet. I know how muddy it is, at least in this particular spot. I want to take a reading of pH. pH is really important this time of year as fish start to spawn, because bass need a pH of somewhere between 7 and 9 in order to be successful at spawning. And a lot of times when you have a springtime runoff or rain or whatever, normally the pH is low. And so at the back of a lot of the major creeks where you've had a lot of runoff, the pH can be too low for fish. And not only that, but the silt can keep them from being there. So I'm going to take a reading of pH here, and then I'm going to take some around the lake to see what is happening around the lake, and so that I can eliminate some water if the pH is too low. There's one other thing that I'll be looking at as I drive around, and that's how muddy it is. The other thing the reason that's important this time of year, particularly during the spawning season, is that the bass can't spawn if there's a lot of silt in the water that settles on the bed. So if I get into an area that's real muddy, that the creek's obviously carrying a lot of silt into the lake, I'll avoid that area too. So those are some of the things I'm going to be looking for as I run around the lake.
This is the type of places that you really want to fish hard in the springtime, because those fish, what they'll do, they'll back in there behind those bushes, beside those buck bushes, and build those beds and try to spawn. Got a little rock in there, they like a hard bottom. So we're going to fish this out, make 4 or 5 casts right in there.
Well, I'm about halfway up the lake. As you can see, the river forks here. It's gotten quite a bit muddier. The temperature stayed about the same, but it's a lot muddier, and I bet you the pH has gone down. It has gone down to about 7.5. We're still in the all right range as far as pH goes, but as I go farther, it's going to continue to decline. So based on that information, the silt in the water and the pH declining, I've decided I'm going to fish the lower end of the lake, the lower third of the lake where the water's a little bit clearer, there's less silt in the water, the pH is better. That's the area I'm going to concentrate my fishing in. So that's where we're going to go right now.